going to speak for you. If you have a perfect bracket, 423-800-8949 is the number. Go ahead and give us a call. But mine's done. Mine's done. And honestly, it wasn't even Virginia that leveled me, which you would think would be the case. Now, I didn't have UMBC beating Virginia. I just thought Virginia had a tough road to the final. What I could not have accounted for was that tough road would include the University of Maryland in Baltimore County, right? The same University of Maryland in Baltimore County that was beaten by Albany earlier in the year by 44 points. I couldn't have told you that. I honestly couldn't have. I looked into the crystal ball. That's not what I got back, right? So I'm not entirely certain what you'd do if you had Virginia winning your bracket. It's done. You're done. But it's okay, because I'm not any better. I had Xavier winning, and Xavier's done. And in fact, this might be the craziest tournament. And I remember we were talking about this last Thursday, rather, before March Madness really got underway. This tournament seemed to offer no clear answers as to who it was that was actually the better team. What really became clear to me, though, was how unbelievably close these teams are, because that's what it is that we are saying, actually. When we look at all of these things and look at all of these upsets, there are so many upsets that it's pretty common that the good team, that the higher ranked team, I should say, was the team that ultimately found itself on the losing end of a lot of these games, whether that be Cincinnati losing to Nevada, whether that be North Carolina losing, whether that be Clemson advancing, Texas A&M advancing. I believe Clemson advancing past Auburn. You had so many teams go down in flames this weekend. This is the craziest NCAA tournament I've ever seen, even if you don't mention that the 16 seed finally beat the 1 seed, right? Which is hugely important to mention, by the way. Because firstly, is this it, right? Is this the time when we acknowledge that 16 seeds can beat 1s? And are we going to see this more often? I imagine we're not going to see this a lot more often, but we've been close many, many times before. And this was a decisive butt kicking, right? Like, this wasn't one of those ones where it's close. And so you have to assume, well, maybe we never see this again, right? Like 15 seeds beat 2 seeds occasionally. And so you can generally safely say 15s do not overwhelmingly beat 2s. But this was so decisive and so lopsided that could you not look at a 16 and a 1 and now actually have to analyze it moving on in the future, right? Like when you're filling out your bracket, it used to be you could look at a 16 and a 1 and just write the 1 in. Does this not now require thought? Because I think it does, right? It would have to. This is not a given anymore. Virginia didn't just get beaten. And in fact, I would say that with a lot of these upsets, they didn't just get beaten. They got stomped out. They got absolutely hammered. And to me, this reminds me a lot of the 1 mile barrier, right? I believe the runner was Roger Bannister. He would run, and no one had ever finished a mile in under 4 minutes. And then once he finished a mile in under 4 minutes, lots of people finished a mile in under 4 minutes, because once somebody sees that it's possible, everybody sees that it's possible. If a 16 can beat a 1 by 20 points, any 16 seed could beat any 1 seed. Now, I think that Virginia is specifically designed, I think, to be the 1 seed that went down. I do think that. And I say that because of the way that they play. They do play a slow, grinding pace of basketball. They use the entire shot clock. And it's very easy for another one of these, and they hate it when you call them this, but another one of these mid-major schools to go ahead and say, hey, we can play that way too. And in fact, a lot of mid-major schools do play that way to sort of give them an advantage or give them a chance at evening the field with a lot of these bigger schools by drawing out the possessions and giving those bigger schools fewer possessions. But even though Virginia is a bigger school and ranked very highly as of late, they're a school that plays in this same fashion. So other schools that are smaller, like a UMBC, they know exactly how to do this. But then you also have the other problem with Virginia, which is that Virginia relies very heavily on three-point shooting. And that was one of the reasons why I didn't have them going to the Sweet 16. Now, again, I didn't have them out in the first round. Because if I had known that, I would have just bet in Vegas and won myself a ton of cash. I didn't have them out in the first round. But at the same time, I did see a lot of those weaknesses there. They were 4 of 22 from 3. They shot horribly from 3. And because they shot horribly from 3, the door got cracked open for UMBC to win that game. And UMBC played out of their mind. Like, Virginia played the worst game they could possibly play, and UMBC played the best game they could possibly play. And that's one of the reasons why they won. But here's the thing with 1 seeds and 16 seeds. One of the things that we have always thought about 1 seeds and 16 seeds is that even on a 1 seed's worst day and a 16 seed's best day, we always expect the 1 to beat the 16. Right? We expect the 1 seed to have the better players, equipment, training, athletes. We expect it. And yet there is no good reason why it is that it came to be Virginia couldn't win that game. Like, I can't offer you a true explanation. I mean, we can go through all the stats of Virginia being 4 of 22 from 3, but why were they 4 of 22 from 3? Right? Like, I don't think it's enough to say that the shots weren't just falling. And once you were 4 of 10 from 3, right? Or once you had shot 10 of 10 threes and they weren't going down, and you shot 15 and they weren't going down. How come Virginia, the team that supposedly has the superior athletes, how come Virginia couldn't switch to a different tactic? How come they couldn't adjust? How come they couldn't adapt? They're supposed to be the better school, right? Like, I don't know. Like, that's where I don't have answers. And a school like UMBC just took it right to Virginia. And yes, UMBC did shoot the ball incredibly well, but they were also playing in a variety of different ways. They didn't mind going into the paint and mixing it up with Virginia. They didn't mind shooting threes as well. UMBC played a great game. And even though they lost in the second round, does that really matter? I mean, you've already got your place in history. I'm not saying that's as good as a championship, but UMBC did not dream that this was going to happen, right? They didn't think that they were going to beat Virginia until about halftime of that game, when it was tied at 21. Then at some point you have to realize, look, we can really beat these guys, because that's around the time when I realized we were all in trouble. The score was tied at 21. I looked at my bracket and said, uh-oh. And I imagine that a lot of you said the same thing, and maybe some other things as well. I mean, it just seemed to be one of those games really, really early on. And I tend not to watch 1s and 16s play. In fact, if there is a game that I generally do not watch in the NCAA tournament, that's the one. That's the one. And by the way, Penn and Kansas were close too. I mean, Kansas finally got it together and pulled away from Penn. But Penn and Kansas were pretty close too. I'll tell you that. And Kansas was able to hold off Penn and continue on in the tournament. But this is one of those wonky tournaments. And Loyola Chicago beat Miami and then beat Tennessee. And both of those games, 1-point victories. I mean, this is why we call it March Madness. It'll drive you absolutely nuts. I didn't see either of those finishes happening. Loyola Chicago is a very good team. They're particularly well coached. And yet the face of that team is a 98-year-old chaplain, right? a nun. Loyola Chicago. And I don't know. When I watch when I watch her speak, by the way, people asked her about being a national star, and she said, excuse me, international. And I'm just saying that if I live to be 98 years old, I would like to be as witty and as sharp as that woman is, because she's got it still. Right? I mean, just sometimes you get older, and I'm sure that we've all seen this with a lot of our family members. They just kind of lose it as they get closer and closer to being 90, 98, and this woman still got all of her marbles. Loyola Chicago, surprising everybody there in the Sweet 16. That's actually where my bracket got ruined. I did have Tennessee in the Final Four because when I watched Tennessee all year, I saw a basketball team that was very dominant, very well coached, can shoot the three incredibly well. Admiral Schofield was my favorite player of the tournament up until that point, and out they went. You're listening to Nooga Radio, noogaradio.com, 92.7 FM, Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today, making me just a small part of your day. You know that I appreciate each and every one of you. North Carolina was the other one that got me. The 2 seed in, I believe, the Western region. North Carolina also going down, and I didn't expect that. Texas A&M beats them to continue on and represent the SEC in the Sweet 16, because I believe all the other SEC schools, despite the fact that the SEC had a record 8 schools in the NCAA tournament. Their previous high score was 6, which they accomplished in 2008. A record 8 schools in the SEC tournament. I believe only Texas A&M will be advancing to the Sweet 16. No, Texas A&M and Kentucky. Can't forget about Kentucky. But Texas A&M beating North Carolina. And Texas A&M is a school that I liked. But this is not the thing here. This is not the issue that Texas A&M beat North Carolina. In the same way that it's not the issue that UMBC beat Virginia. It's not that UMBC beat Virginia, which is a big deal in and of itself. It is that they stomped Virginia. And it's not that Texas A&M beat North Carolina, a school that is the defending champion and a team that I thought legitimately had a chance to repeat. It's not that they beat North Carolina. It's that they stomped them. Again, 21-point victory. And then you had Cincinnati playing Nevada. And 22-point lead Cincinnati has over the Wolfpack. Cincinnati Bearcats, they have a 22-point lead with 11 minutes to go. I believe that the ESPN game probability calculator, right? Like it actually calculates the probability of a team winning a game at a certain point in the game. I believe that the ESPN probability calculator gave Nevada a 0.1% chance at that point in the game of beating Cincinnati. So it wasn't 0, but 0.1. And Cincinnati blew a 22-point lead. Right? Like some of these losses that we've been seeing in this tournament, it's not that they're happening, because we've had ridiculous upset tournaments before. It's that they're so lopsided. It's not, because I would say that the rule of the tournament, and it's a joke that I wanted to make on the air and I was planning it. Like the thing is, it's not that if you're a good team, you're getting beaten in this tournament. We've seen tournaments like that. What we haven't seen is tournaments where the good teams don't just get beaten, they get stomped on. Right? Xavier losing to Florida State. And that's been the issue. It's either teams blow gigantic leads like Cincinnati and Xavier, or the lower seed absolutely destroys and dismantles the upper seed. I mean, it's crazy to me. This whole thing has been insane. And I ask you, when have you seen anything like this, right? Like, when has something in sports really surprised you?
Made options to alleviate and eliminate these invisible dangers. Learn more at blockitpocket.com or call 888-315-9618. Blockitpocket.com. Enhance.
When has anything in sports surprised you like this? Right? Like, when has that ever happened before? Because I could not tell you. There's something about this tournament, and it's just historic. It's absolutely historic. Right? My bracket is done. You can call and tell me about your bracket. 423-800-8949 is the Nooga Radio phone line. I would love to hear from you. Now, I do think that there are some teams that wouldn't surprise me if they continued on in the tournament to some degree of high success, because I've been impressed by West Virginia, for instance, right? Bob Huggins, I like to call him Huggy Bear. Bob Huggins has gotten West Virginia into the Sweet 16. And I'm not saying that they're a school that was necessarily slept on. They are a 5 seed, which is respectable. And it's not like we haven't seen 5 seeds make it this far before. And they won every game they were supposed to win, right? They beat Murray State, and then Marshall, who upset Wichita State. West Virginia beat them. But I don't know if anybody had West Virginia making a run to the Final Four, and they really could. They play Villanova. They could very well beat Villanova, and Villanova is a very good school. I'm not suggesting by any means that Villanova is going to lose. I did have Villanova in my championship game, losing to Xavier. So there's that. So, I mean, the degree to which you can rely on anything that I say concerning this tournament at this point is pretty much null and void. But I will say that West Virginia and Bob Huggins' team has a lot of seniors on it. They play incredibly fundamental basketball, and they've got defensively one of my favorite units in the entire tournament. So I do think that if you're Virginia, or not Virginia, if you are West Virginia, you've got a lot of reason to believe this is a year that you can do something, right? Big 12 representing a lot in the Sweet 16. The Big 12 having Kansas and Texas Tech and West Virginia all showing up. All of them showing up. I think another team that could make a run is Kentucky. This is Kentucky's time of year because Coach Cal, and I talked about the seniors from West Virginia. I mean, you couldn't find a team more opposite West Virginia than Kentucky. Kentucky typically built on one-and-done schools, one-and-done players going to the school. And so, yeah, if you're Kentucky, I would have to think that you believe you can make a run to win a title. And I think that it's important for John Calipari to win a title. John Calipari says all the time that that's not what's important to him. And that getting players to the NBA and getting players to graduate from college, that's what's important to him. But I don't think that's true. Right? I don't live in John Calipari's head, so I can't honestly tell you. But I don't think that that's necessarily true. That John Calipari is just about getting guys to the NBA. And that feels as good as a title to him. No, it doesn't. You know what feels as good as a title? A title. Right? Like that's insane. Like you enter the lottery. You enter the lottery because nothing feels better than winning the lottery. If you're a coach and you coach for titles, you coach for rings. Your legacy isn't built on how many guys you can send to the NBA. Lots of coaches send lots of guys to the NBA. And John Calipari knows this, but also John Calipari is a fabulous politician. And what he does is he's able to talk to the media very well and say what he wants to say. And we just sort of all take it, right? Because I've been able to hear John Calipari speak to the media. And that's what he does. I mean, he gets the media to just sort of lap up everything that he says. I think John Calipari wants to win a ring. I think that's exactly what he wants. I think he would love to. I think winning a ring with that Anthony Davis team made him incredibly happy. And I do think that it bothers him that people question his legacy for the lack of rings that he has, given the degree of talent. That, yeah, because you send so many guys to the NBA, that means you had a large number of NBA caliber players at your disposal. And yet, here you are with one title to show for it all. And this is a year Kentucky could do it. Kentucky would play Kansas State next. And I think that they could beat Kansas State, right? I have that actually in my bracket. I had them beating Virginia in my bracket. But the point is, they could very well beat K-State. I mean, they're more athletic. And this is the case for almost everybody that Kentucky plays, is that they're more athletic than you. They may not be better coached than you. They may not be better disciplined than you, even though we have seen them become more disciplined as the season has gone on. But Kentucky, yeah, Kentucky, they're better than you. You're listening to all new Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com, 92.7 FM. We're going to talk a little bit more about the tournament, NFL free agency, and the fallout from the Arnold Palmer Invitational and what that means for the Masters. Next.
Chattanooga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news now.
2 electricians fried at the nuke plant. The TVA is investigating an incident from Friday at the Sequoia nuclear plant in Saudi Daisy. The 2 injured contractors were apparently hurt when an electrical transformer flashed with light and heat energy. The public was never in any danger. Gunfire in Chattanooga as the Chattanooga Police Department confirms a victim arrived at the hospital wounded by a bullet. Cops say the 30-year-old will survive. Officers scoured the area of East 49th Street. So far, the gunman is still on the loose. Cleveland police have identified the man who was found dead by a ditch. He's been identified as Jeffrey Donovan. Dispatch received a call around 10:30 a.m. that a man had been discovered near 6th Street Southeast. Police believe Donovan crashed his motorcycle into a utility pole and then into rocks at the bottom of a ditch, killing him. Val St. John for Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 News Now.
Traffic, news, and information. Nooga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
We expect fair to partly cloudy skies to continue through your nighttime. Cold overnight, lows mid and upper 20s. Now for your Wednesday, look for some sunshine with a breeze out of the north, though. Light cold, highs up around 40 with more mainly dry and cold weather expected through Friday. Celebrate the new year with Dixieland Fireworks, locally owned with the largest selection around. A Black Hat dealer with the lowest prices in Dixie. Dixieland Fireworks, just off I-75 on Ringgold Road, East Ridge. And I'm Storm Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM.
Hey guys, do you need a mini man break? We know how busy you are, but don't let your hairstyle suffer. Come see the stylist at Sport Clips at Hamilton Place and let them treat you to the MVP experience. A precision haircut, legendary hot steam towel, massaging shampoo, and relaxing neck and shoulder treatment, all while watching your favorite sports. No appointment needed. Sport Clips at Hamilton Place, located in front of Home Depot.
For years, you have heard these words, cash, 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 and more cash. Now, Rick wants you to buy on U.S. Gold American coins. Are you tired of making 1% on your investments with the banks, even 2 or 3% at best? Well, don't miss out. Stop by Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds at 5301 Brainerd Road in Chattanooga. Buy American. Buy now. Gold is on the rise. Certified U.S. Gold American Eagle coins at Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, 5301 Brainerd Road in Chattanooga.
Mom's furniture, her boxes of paperback romances, Mom's estate. Oh, call Dan. Dan will help you get on with your life. Let Dan clear the old house. Take care of everything. He'll hand you a nice check. 314-4034. Dan, the cleanup man. 314-4034. In this moment, who has your back? Do you know the name of your insurance agent? Does your agent know your name? Or would you call a 1-800 number that connects you with whom? Another state? Another country? Get a local independent insurance agent with Auto Owners Insurance. Someone you can call when bad stuff happens. In this moment, get an agent who will protect you in that moment. Let Goss Insurance in Chattanooga help you today. GossInsurance.wordpress.com. Goss, representing Auto Owners Insurance, the no problem people. GossInsurance.com. Goss. GossInsurance.com, representing Auto Owners Insurance, the no problem people. 875-2500, 875-2500. Want a business phone system that gives you Outlook integration, Salesforce integration, smartphone integration? Why desk sets and expensive lines? Turn smartphones into a cohesive business system. Call Signal 619-1200. Signal Voice and Data 619-1200.
Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM knows your opinion is important. So call 800-8949. Agree or disagree? Call 423-800-8949. 800-8949. Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM and 95.3 HD4. News Talk Nooga Radio.
Sharp, opinionated, thought-provoking. Clutch with Keon Rose.
You're listening to all new Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com, 92.7 FM. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to talk a little bit of golf and, of course, NFL free agency because it's just been absolutely crazy. The Jets and the Colts swapping picks, and a lot of them. The Jets giving up a bunch of first rounders and a bunch of second rounders this year and next year to jump up to the third spot to draft, presumably, a quarterback, which makes sense if you're the Jets, because if you are the Jets, you have to understand that you've been in a quarterback wilderness for since Namath? Since Namath. And if you've been in a quarterback wilderness since Joe Namath, and you live in, and your team is in a major market like New York, and you have a quarterback sport, it's a quarterback-driven league, how is it possible that you haven't had a guy with any name recognition or any clout or anything close to winning ability in years? And yeah, you could toss out Mark Sanchez, but was Mark Sanchez really a guy that we thought had significant winning ability? Because I didn't think so, right? Like I was not looking at Mark Sanchez and going, oh yeah, this guy's the guy, right? Like Mark Sanchez was good, but he was a game manager. Mark Sanchez always was a game manager. Rex Ryan built that team to play defense. Defense was the meat and potatoes of those Rex Ryan teams that Mark Sanchez was on. And he by no means was an awful quarterback, but he wasn't a world beater. He wasn't a guy that you're giving the big contract to and saying, hey, man, put the team on your back when we need you in the fourth. Just wasn't going to be him. And the Jets haven't had a guy like that in my whole life. And I'm 28. Okay, so that's a long time to go without a quarterback who's at least pretty good. Right? Well, they had Chad Pennington, but Chad Pennington was made out of glass. So I don't know if you could really... a healthy quarterback that was any good, right? Like when was the last time the Jets had that? So you have to move up for this, right? If you're the Jets, you're trying to put together a team that at least looks respectable on paper, because the Jets to me surprised a lot of people last year. They really won a bunch of games early that I don't think anybody thought. Like to me, I thought the Jets would legitimately have the number one pick in the draft. I did think so. Right. I actually thought the Browns were going to improve some, and I thought the Jets were going to be the worst team in the NFL. I was very wrong about that. But the point is, nobody expected the Jets to be any good, right? It wasn't just me. A lot of people thought the Jets were going to be a very bad football team, and they turned out to be an average football team. So you have to think to yourself, if you're that team and you're that organization, a quarterback could put us over the top. So you move up in the draft to the third spot, because where the Jets were previously, I believe they were picking sixth. Yes, they were. Where you were puts you in a serious position to take a quarterback you don't necessarily want. And we've seen this happen in the draft again and again and again, where maybe one or two of those guys turn out to be truly special, You might have a random guy in the 3rd or 4th round pop up and be a special guy. Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson. That doesn't happen very often. I don't think you bank on that. I think you just get lucky and have that guy, right? I think Kirk Cousins also a 4th rounder. But you get lucky and you find that guy. Or you take a chance on that guy after you already have a quarterback, right? Because the Seahawks thought they already had a quarterback in Matt Flynn when they drafted Russell Wilson. And the Cowboys thought they already had a quarterback in Tony Romo when they drafted Dak Prescott. I don't think that, and the Redskins took RG3 first before they took Kirk Cousins. I don't think you go into the 3rd and 4th round going, yeah, we're going to get us a quarterback here. What I do think is that the Jets are trying to avoid taking a quarterback they don't want. In this draft, there are 3 names that keep coming up as a guy that you would like to have. You want either Darnold, even though he's got turnover problems, he does show that special talent. You want Josh Rosen because he does show, again, that fundamental ability to be special. The arm talent, as scouts will always tell you, exists. And Josh Allen. Josh Allen, I'm not a big believer in, but scouts love him. And I'm not a scout, so I'm not going to pretend that I know more than NFL scouts who get paid to do this for a living. But you hear those 3 names over and over and over again. I imagine the Jets have scouts that are telling them, you want one of these 3 guys. Guys that you don't want in this draft. I mean, and I suppose Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's another name that ought to come up that you should want as a guy. But a guy that you wouldn't want in this draft is Lamar Jackson. And look, I have been a gigantic Lamar Jackson pom-pom waiver for a long time. And even I can tell you that Lamar Jackson is a risky pick. I think his upside is incredibly high because his athleticism is off the charts. But I also think that, yeah, he had the accuracy problems in college. We don't know how accurate he is. It's not like he was throwing to an elite group of receivers. He had a lot of drops as well. So you just have no idea. It's too much of a wild card. And then also, he does have that funky throwing delivery. And if that tells you anything, there are going to be throws that he can't make. And we saw this in the NFL draft combine with him too. His deep ball, beautiful. Creme de la creme. Deep ball. Lamar Jackson throwing to the sidelines, I don't want to say it was a nightmare, but it wasn't great, right? Like there was a whole lot there to be desired for Lamar Jackson throwing to the sidelines, throwing out routes, even throwing in routes, throwing those posts. I don't really know if any organization has truly fallen in love with Lamar Jackson as a quarterback. It's a little too risky. And if you're the Jets, you definitely don't want to get another guy like that, right? Like you don't want to get a guy that's got all the athleticism but can't put it together in terms of understanding how to read an NFL defense. With Lamar Jackson has come slowly across reading defenses in his college career. Even he would tell you he's still not the best at it. So I'm looking forward to this draft, and I am looking forward to what it is specifically that the Jets are going to do, and even what the Colts are going to do now with all of those picks. I've read a number of mock drafts, by the way. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose on all new Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. I've looked at a number of mock drafts, by the way, that have the Browns still taking a quarterback even after they've traded for Tyrod Taylor. And I understand that you might have some skepticism of Tyrod Taylor. I do too. I am not the biggest believer in Tyrod Taylor. Sam Jordan, who does the sports show before mine, he loves Tyrod Taylor, right? Like he thinks Tyrod Taylor is a great football player. And I will give it to Sam that Tyrod is very exciting. The way that he runs around and kind of plays that backyard football. He can make backyard football out of a broken play, which is an interesting quality to have. I still am not the biggest believer in Tyrod Taylor, but I have to believe that Tyrod Taylor makes the Browns better than what they were, because it can't be worse than what we were seeing from Deshaun Kaiser, who we knew he was rough and he should never have been out there. He should never have been out there at that stage in his career. But the Browns didn't have any other options. And I think Tyrod Taylor is a fine enough option for the Browns to not have to take a quarterback right now, right? Like if you're going to trade for Tyrod Taylor, then, and the mock draft has them taking Josh Allen. If you're going to trade for Tyrod Taylor, like Josh Allen, who's also filled with risk, he's got the size and he's built like your prototypical NFL quarterback. I'm just not seeing the Josh Allen pick for the Cleveland Browns, especially when you go look, and this team has got holes at every position, even if you temporarily plug that hole at quarterback with Tyrod Taylor. and you go out and you give him somebody to throw to, right? It's not like you let the roster stand pat. You went and gave him somebody to throw to in Jarvis Landry. Even if you have all of that stuff, for some reason, why would you take Josh Allen, especially you having the number 1 pick, Saquon Barkley being on the board? Like, I don't understand that one necessarily. Saquon Barkley, to me, is the most special player in this draft. 100% hands down. I don't know if everyone in this draft is going to turn out to be great. I don't know about Mayfield, Darnold, or Rosen. I don't know about Tremaine Edmonds. I don't know about Cortland Sutton. I don't know about any of these guys. Mason Rudolph, who is also another good quarterback, but again, not necessarily that guaranteed special guy. I mean, there's a number of great names going in that could go in the first round. Calvin Ridley from Alabama. I like all of them. But I don't know that any of these guys are going to be special. I'm sure a number of them will wind up being so, but I know Saquon Barkley will be special. I know it. Right. And I think that if you've ever watched Saquon Barkley, if you've gotten the chance to watch some Penn State football, you know it too. I think you do. Like, Saquon Barkley reminds me of, and I'm not kidding, and I don't believe I'm exaggerating, LaDainian Tomlinson. The way that he can make plays out of the backfield, the way that he's such a patient runner, the fact of the matter that he keeps his pads low, like LaDainian Tomlinson did. Like, he does a lot of things that LaDainian Tomlinson did. He's like a new age LaDainian Tomlinson in the way that we believe Leonard Fournette is the new Adrian Peterson. I think Saquon Barkley is the new LaDainian Tomlinson. It's not an exaggeration. He's that good. And if you had the opportunity, and I don't care what people say about running backs and their value disappearing, I don't care. If you had the opportunity to draft LaDainian Tomlinson today, knowing what LaDainian Tomlinson became, would you not draft him? I believe the answer to that question is yes. I think you would. 423-800-8949. Would you draft a young LaDainian Tomlinson in the NFL today? And do you think that Saquon Barkley is? Because I think he is. And I absolutely think that you would have to be insane to pass on Saquon Barkley. Like, this is a draft where the quarterbacks, I don't know what you're going to get out of all of them because they all have such strong weaknesses. And it's crazy, right? Because this is the draft that everyone said was going to be the great quarterback draft. And here we are. It's all the same quarterbacks. And we're actually not sure about all of them. We're actually not sure about Rosen and Darnold and Allen and Rudolph and Jackson. Like, we're not sure about any of these guys. And it's crazy to me because I think we do this all the time. We say, this next draft is going to be the next best quarterback draft. And then the draft comes on and we're like, they're okay. Yeah, you saw another year of their flaws and realized they're not perfect. Right? Like, Darnold is special, and I still think he's special. It's like, turnovers aside, he's still such a special talent and still such an amazing player. Like, you still have to take him as the first quarterback in the draft, I think. I know that a lot of people are so high on Josh Allen, but I still think Darnold is just pound for pound the best guy in the draft. But Saquon Barkley, man. I think you got to take Saquon. I don't know. There is no rational justification for not taking Saquon Barkley. Like, none. You cannot talk me out of that. You're listening to all new Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com, 92.7 FM, Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today. So the Arnold Palmer Invitational was this past weekend. And what is interesting to note was that the story was the comeback of Tiger Woods, that we saw Tiger Woods the week before play amazing golf, right? His short game is back. He's making good decisions right off the bat, right? Like, right before. He doesn't take too many risks, but he takes just enough risks. He's doing all of these things that only Tiger could do in the way that he approaches the green and approaches the fairway. Like, he's the only guy that can do these things. And then we got a surprise story, right? The comeback of Rory McIlroy. We forgot about Rory. Can we just be completely honest about this? We forgot about Rory McIlroy. Completely. And with good reason, by the way. Rory hasn't won a tournament since 2016. It's been 2 years since we last actually heard from Rory McIlroy. But Rory McIlroy winning the Arnold Palmer Invitational, and I know a lot of people were going to give it to Tiger, but does this not make Rory the favorite to win the Masters? Because I'm still not sold on Tiger being the favorite, but Tiger does deserve a whole lot more respect now, right? Like, Tiger Woods going into Saturday, right? Several rounds under par at this point, which we hadn't seen from Tiger in a while. Tiger Woods has absolutely become, in a lot of ways, the Tiger Woods of old. Now, he isn't the same, like, he isn't as athletic as he used to be, but the length is still there. The ability to read the green is still there. The ability to miraculously work his way out of bunkers and out of rough is still there. It's all there, right? I mean, the tools seem to have never dulled with Tiger. With Rory, it's a little different, right? Rory's still young. And so I think it is interesting to wonder where Rory went, because when Rory started really coming up, Rory was the guy that a lot of people thought, okay, we don't have Tiger, but we'll be all right because Rory McIlroy is going to save golf, right? Like, he can be the next rock star of golf. He's that good. And Rory McIlroy is that talented, but then he vanished, right? Like, and there were tournaments where Rory wasn't even close. You look at the leaderboard, you don't see Rory McIlroy's name, and we just sort of forgot about him. Rory's still out here. And I think that is interesting to note because, quite frankly, he's still the future of the sport, right? Like, that's the thing. He's young enough to still very much be the future of this sport. But I don't think that anyone's going to give him the same level of respect that people gave Tiger if he's going to have 2 years of, like, disappearing between winning majors or winning tournaments even, right? Like, Rory, it's not like Rory wasn't winning majors. Rory wasn't winning tournaments. And that's worse, right? And we saw with Tiger had the issues, his personal issues and his injuries and everything else. Like, I can't think of a single actually distinct thing that happened to Rory McIlroy that made it so that he couldn't compete in tournaments. So it's good to have Rory back. And I also think that Rory being back should make him the odds-on favorite to win the Masters, right? Like, I don't think that displaces Tiger too much. Like, Tiger should still be a favorite, but I think in terms of a golfer having full control of their faculties, I would take the younger guy, right? Like, I just would. And again, I have to be the biggest Tiger stan there is, because I stand here and I basically force conversations about Tiger Woods about annually, right? Like, at the beginning of every PGA Tour, we have a conversation about how much we're going to actually see Tiger, because I am a really big Tiger fan. He's the reason why I started watching golf in the first place. And I will watch golf after there is Tiger. I just don't want us to be so willing to close up the books on whether or not there will be Tiger. So Tiger's recent performances have actually been wonderful to see. But I actually am amazed at how thoroughly we have forgotten about Rory McIlroy. Because I look at the odds before every major, and the names that come up, you see Sergio's name come up as one of the leaders. Matt Kuchar, obviously, he's very good. And Henrik Stenson, he's again another one of those guys. His name comes up. You shouldn't be surprised that it comes up very often. Rory's name doesn't. And Jordan Spieth is another one. Rory's a name that doesn't come up very often. And I wonder what happened to Rory. My guess is, I think Rory and actually fell into a pitfall the same that Tiger did, right? Like Tiger's pitfall was that Tiger fell in love with his own length, right? Like he fell in love with the length of his driver, and I think lost a little bit of his touch around the hole, right? I think Rory fell into that same trap. Have to, because Rory's strong, right? Like Rory has got the ability to drive the ball just forever. And I think he fell in love with that a little bit. And I think he lost sight of his short game as well. And Rory's got a good short game, as we saw this weekend. Rory on the green, I mean, he can really read it. And it looks instinctual for him, right? Like Tiger approaches the green and it's analytical and he's looking from 16 different angles. Like there's a certain level of amusement that I have to the fact that Rory seems like he can just step up to the green and take one look at it and sink a, 15-foot, 18-foot putt. He has that ability. And I'm a huge fan of that. Like that's what makes Rory so exciting to actually watch play golf. But I think he lost touch with it. I do. And I think that all of those guys that are able to drive the ball forever, and Brooks Koepka is another one of those guys. You just hit the ball and it just goes for miles. I think those guys tend to lose track of their short game generally. And Tiger Woods is a guy that has always been able to drive the ball a long distance. But getting in touch with the short game again, that's what's going to make him successful, especially since a lot of these courses have adapted in a lot of ways to take that advantage of length away, which is the reason why we've seen the success of a guy like Jordan Spieth, even though Spieth doesn't necessarily have that range. You're listening to all new Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com, 92.7 FM. Thank you for joining me today, making me just a small part of your day. I do appreciate everybody tuning in. Remember, folks, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch, and I'll see you in 24 hours.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM.